Hey, welcome. This is Soul Aligned Living, and tonight we are live for Ask Me Anything. This is where you get to bring your questions about whatever, and I answer them live. I'm Dr. Toya Davis. If you are new to me, I am an Oracle spiritual teacher and the owner of Chi Healing Institute, and I am all about helping you get to the life that lights you up from the inside out. So, I did not get that many pre-submitted questions this week. So if you all don't have questions in the chat, this will probably end up being a pretty short live. If you're here, go ahead and say hi so I can acknowledge you and say hi back. While we are doing that, I will just go ahead and just give my little quick announcements, right? So today is Wednesday, March 11th. Why was that important? I don't know. I need to orient myself sometimes to the day of the week. But March 21st, which is in like a week and a half ish, we have our live virtual workshop for Egbe Orun. So if you're interested in learning about Egbe, that's happening. Hey, perfectly not W. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. And I am so sorry about not being live last week. Last week was supposed to be channeled messages. So I may combine channeled messages and Ask Me Anything, since again, I didn't have many questions that came in ahead of time, but my energy was just like crazy last week. And like I teach, right, I try to be mindful of the energy in the space that I'm in, so that when I am particularly channeling, I am a pure vessel, right? That I am not kind of crossing and bringing my own stuff into messages. And I think last week just really threw me off because February was a short month. And I got confused. Like I was just discombobulated the whole of last week, right? On top of things that were just astrologically and the planets and all of that stuff, the way things were shaping up. It was just a strange week. So, point is, Wednesday, I was not into it. So, my apologies if you were on or if you were expecting me to be there and I was not there, but I'm here tonight. All right. So, hey, Stephanie. Hey, Girly 200. African Queen T. Thank y'all for joining me. So if you didn't hear me at the beginning, we don't have many questions tonight. So if you have some, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you are here, please go ahead and hit the like button if you have not subscribed. But I'm assuming since all of y'all are here that you have subscribed, right? But if you have not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Let me see. Anything good happened what's today? Today is Wednesday. We just went to that. Can't think of anything right now. So the first question that I got was actually more like I'm gonna say a business question. And the question was around, had I ever thought about creating, like, in order to go with some of the books and some of the teachings that I have I ever thought about creating affirmation cards or some type of oracle deck or cards to go with those things? And the short answer to that question is a yes, right? My list of to-dos, right, and soon comes in my business is very long, and at some point I will get to all of them. But I always say, like, I create when the energy is present, right? So what that means is, like, I'll use the Egbe book, for example. I actually started that book the year before last, right? That energy was present. I started writing it. And then the time that I set, because in December I was at the university, right? And so, when you're with the university, you have like your winter break, you have, so these very set breaks. So I had set my winter break to really dive into writing on that book. And when I started, the ancestors came through like so strong. And so I essentially wrote the Path to the Ancestor series in like that 2-week window of winter break, right? So the energy had shifted and I couldn't ever tap back into the Egbe energy. And then it showed back up very, very strongly. So I say that to say I follow the energy. And so if I have a download, like for example, I have a complete set of cards that are already mapped out. I won't say what they are because, quantum field is, so let me say this. People talk about like, oh, this person stole my idea, or I have to hold on to this thing, or they get upset when they see somebody else's thing. The reality is information drops into collective consciousness, right? Into the quantum field. Those people who are an aligned or vibrational match for that particular information receives that information, which is why when you get a divine download, you should be in action, because the information or the frequency of that particular thing, because remember, all of those things have their own energy, right? The book that wants to be birthed, it is its own energy. The business that wants to come to fruition, it is its own energy. The artwork that wants to be created, it is its own energy. So it wants to be birthed into physical form. And so it kind of scours the feelings like, oh, who's a match right now for this, right? And so it drops in. But then if you don't take action, it still wants to be birthed. And so it finds another vessel that is also a frequency match. It might shift a little bit, right? But it drops into a different person. So I say that to say I have stuff, I'm working on it. Hi, Smiling Happily 6190. Hey, Lotus Mindset 88. Thank y'all for joining me. Right. Lotus Mindset. If you don't act on it, somebody else will. You are not the only person getting it. Exactly. Right. So it's always really funny to me when people be like, they stole my idea. First of all, there's nothing new under the sun, right? Energy is not new. Like, because all things are energy, right? The idea of the thing is not new. How it comes through us might have a different bend or spin or lean to it, but it is there. All right. So that was the first question. Did I have plans to do those things? Taste of Righteousness asked, I'm doing well. She says, hi, how am I? Or they, I'm not sure which one it is. What does it mean when you're playing a game on your phone and you literally see water fall on the floor? I don't know if I have a correlation for that. I would say, so again, I try to be, big picture. Sorry, y'all, it's stuff in my chair and it is like, okay. Because, I like to put my little legs up. I flashed some people, sorry. I like to, when we're talking about correlations or like what this means or what that means, I like to bring this out to kind of a bigger picture, right? One, because everyone's association with something is going to be different, right? It depends on your personal association with that thing, and the meaning that you attribute to that thing, which is going to be different for everyone else, right? I don't ascribe to the belief like, oh, if you see if you see the number 333, it means this, right? Or if you see it means this. For me, it is, what does it mean to you? How does that signify to you? So if you're playing a game, because clearly the fact that you're asking, what does it mean if you see water fall on the floor when you're playing that game, that means that you had an impulse. That means that you had a thought. That means that you had a something dropped in your spirit at that moment, and then you're questioning it, right? So also my thing is, first thought is the right thought. So what prompted you to even think that there is a correlation between these two things? Whatever that thing is, then I would say that you investigate that, or you lean into that, or you ask for clarifying information around that. So that's another thing, y'all. If we see something and we're like, I think that this thing is a symbol. I think this is a sign. I think this is a message. I think this, whatever, ... right? You can ask for more information. You can ask for confirmation. You can ask that it come a different way. You can ask. So one of the things I think that I want to bring up here is like our ability to be in communion with spirit, whatever that energy or entity is, right? However that looks, our ability to be in communion and be in connection with that. And because we are in communion and in connection with that energy, that means that one, we don't have to be scared of it. Two, we don't have to approach it through this like level of hierarchy, right? Because if there is a form of communication that's happening, the thing that I always like to say is communication is ineffective if someone doesn't understand it, right? And if a spirit or if an energy is sending you a message or trying to communicate, the goal is for you to be able to receive the message. Okay. And so if you are unclear, asking for clarity around that can do wonders. I know it seems very simplistic in its approach, but I promise you it works. African Queens, he says, if someone has spiritual keys for womb healing, how could you use that spiritual gift to help others? What's really funny about that, African Queens, you know I love a good story time. Oh wow, and the spring equinox is coming up. That's crazy. So how I got started pre Chi Healing Institute, I had a company. I still have it. I actually just made some products the other day, like 2 days ago. Chi Essence was this company. Speaking of downloads, right? Speaking of downloads and following the inspiration and kind of seeing that thing through. This is also a story and not needing to know where something will land, right? Not a lot of times we stop our progress because we can't see the full scope or the full picture of what's going to happen. It's like we need to know if I do this, then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And I say when we get divine inspiration, we follow the step after the step after the step, right? We don't get to see the path if we don't take the first step. So rewinding. So I had a download about creating this scrub for womb healing. Mind you, I had never been I'm not one of those people that necessarily study like women's reproductive health or anything like that. So when the download came, I was like, okay, I don't really know, but whatever, we're going to go with it. Right. I had personally been having some issues. So I just assumed, okay, this is for me. Let me make the scrub. I'm going to do that. I'm going to, do it on my womb. And so I followed like the full kind of download came. I followed the instructions. And then the download was do a womb healing ceremony or womb healing ritual for people. I mean, when I say the full, it was like this, and then it gave me this whole information about like how the womb and doing womb work and ritual womb work was connected to the spring equinox and how the particular energy of the spring equinox helped with this stuff, right? And so full on thing, did the ceremony, did the ritual, it was local, took pictures, and then like the people who were there, I ended up giving them like some of the scrub, and people started talking about the results. And then I started packaging the scrub and selling the scrub. And then from that, my company Chi Essence was born, where I created scrubs, body oils, and mists, which then led into Chi Healing Institute, right? So for me, I know that was, you didn't ask me about my personal story, but to me, it's funny that you asked me about the womb healing, right? And that literally was my, kind of the journey into this. And in your question, you're saying, what if you have the keys to this, right? What if you have the spiritual keys for womb healing, and how could you use that spiritual gift to help others? And like, clearly I had the keys too. I just didn't know what it was. But I'm saying this to say, going back to what I said, like, you don't need to know each step in this, right? You need to be open to how the divine or how the information comes to you, and feel into like, how am I supposed to help with this, right? I went from a scrub, a ritual, a me thing, because you should let me just side note this, right? People, make sure that when we are out here doing things, you have tried these things on yourself through some type of, small group case study, whatever. Like, Don't just be like, oh, I had this download and now I'm out here selling widgets and I don't even know if the widgets work, right? Or what the interaction is going to be or anything like that. So back to where we are right now. You said that you were meditating and you seen a key unlocking your stomach, your solar plex, you're assuming. You brought it up and someone told me I have a womb healing spiritual gifts. And so I would offer that you go into either some type of meditation, journaling practice, free writing, scripting, tapping into your higher self, using your Akashic Records, any of those tools to say, how am I to use this gift at this time? What is the path of least resistance for me to bring this gift into the world? Is there work that I need to do with myself with this first? How am I to be a conduit for this gift, right? So anything in that kind of vein or area, right? And that is a good arc of questions. That the arc of questions that I just gave are a good arc of questions for anyone to use as you are trying to figure out, like, how do I actually use this gift, right? Y'all know I'm Team Akashic Records, particularly as it relates to soul level gifts and how we bring things into the world. But if you do not know how to access your Akashic Records, right, we can always tap into unified field or consciousness. You can always ask your oversoul or the highest aspect of yourself, right, those things, and you can get to those answers. You can get to that information through those energies by, like I said, free writing, scripting, meditation, visualization, right, all of those things. Short version, ask the question. Okay. Simple is just that simple. Doesn't mean it's easy. It does not mean it's easy. Simple definitely does not mean easy. Definitely does not. Hi, Jackie. Seeing reality for what it really is has caused many of us concern regarding your sons. How can we better parent and at least attempt to steer our child in a better direction? I love that question. I have 2 kids. And what's really funny is today somebody posted a question about, it was on one of my Facebook friends. They posed a question that said, why is it that we consider girls trying to be grown when they want to shave, talking about pubic area, when they want to shave, but grown women shave to be like, and it's perceived to be trying to be childlike, right? And so she was trying to go through this dichotomy. And I was like, one of the challenges that I have in parenting, I was like, it's not a direct response to your question, but one of the challenges that I have in parenting is often challenging myself around those pre-programmed beliefs, notions, and ideas, right? Things that, one, again, I'm from the South, right? Caribbean family, Black, all of those things, right? How do you show up in that energy, or how do you show up with those things that have been programmed in you, recognizing that they are programs, being able to challenge them, discard the things that are not of service, uphold the things that are of service, and identify and support the individuality of your children. So for me, one of the things that I find super helpful in raising children is understanding that they are their own individual souls, right? With understanding that they're their own individual souls, they came here wired a particular way. They came here with their own soul gifts. They came here with their own karmic residue. They came here with the lessons that they wanted to learn, which includes the hardships, which includes just all of the lessons, right? All of the ways that those lessons show up. They came here with those things. Me as a parent, they selected me as a parent because they said, hey, this person has something that can help me navigate the choices that I've made, the places I want to go, aligns with where I am karmically, right? So I am going to come and be born to this person. So then my job as a parent is to help, for me to understand and look at them through the lens of themselves individually, and not through the lens of what I expect them to be and do, right? So acknowledging their personhood is first. And then once I acknowledge their personhood, recognizing that my goal or my role in their life is to help them be the most effective and efficient version of who they came here to be. Again, not who I want them to be, right? Not the programs that I was raised with that I'm now working through undoing, right? I told my daughter the other day, we were driving home and she said, something around people pleasing. She was like, well, I just did it because I wanted people to be happy. I was like, whoa, hold on, right? Like I'm doing too much work out here in the world around other people, around identifying the limitations of beliefs around people pleasing to send my own child out into the world who believes that she needs to operate from an energy of obligation or people pleasing or making herself smaller sacrifice. She was like, no, I get it. Right. As I was like, okay, because I was like, how did we get here? So being mindful of those things. Okay. So those are like the high esoteric things, right? Practical tools to help you raise your children. I do soul blueprint readings, right? I think that soul blueprint readings are absolutely amazing for children because you understand their natural places that they're going to have a gap, right? Or where they may need support. The natural ways that they're going to show up when they're out of alignment, the natural things that they're going to do to adjust to, kind of fit in where their strengths and where their talents are. So it helps you, one, parent them better because you understand them at soul level, but it also helps them understand how they're wired and how they're oriented. In traditional, I am also a part of African traditional religious systems, right? And so in those, we also have systems where we are able to typically you get them though when the child is small. Readings or divinations that help you understand again who that child is, what they came with, the energies and stuff that they came with, to help clear up anything that may cause problems or things that need to be supported or avoided or things like that, right? And then the other thing I think is oftentimes we don't listen to our kids, right? We hear them, right? But we're not actually listening for the sake of understanding, which is like no judgment, but like literally listening and holding space for them to go through the trials and the tribulations and the mistakes and all of that stuff. And sometimes it's hard because we're watching it and we're like, whoa, what's happening? Right. But I am team, like, I am here to support you, but I am not here to keep you from, experiencing the things that you have to experience. So I hope that was helpful. If you need more specific, something around that, you can drop it in the chat. And also, this is the other thing. Like, I am hyper honest with my kids, right? But my mom was also hyper honest with me, and by hyper honest, I mean, we have conversations consistently about why I don't let them just watch TV, right? Why? Because there's subconscious programming. I need you to be very like when they grew up, they never watched a Disney movie, right? Because of all of the subliminal messaging that was in there, particularly that's harmful for black people, and then girls on top of that, right? So it's like all of these things, but we talk about it, so it's not like just me giving these dictates. It's us having conversations. Right now with all of the stuff that's happening crazy, I give them my perspective. I never make them buy into my perspective, right? It's like, this is what I think. This is how I am processing this. This is what I believe. They're free to go do their research, come back. We can have a conversation around it. And I've done this since they were little, right? I've literally treated I call them little people. I've literally treated them like they were fully thinking and functioning little people since they were little, right? And now I get to see the fruits of that. So I offer that to say, like, I don't try to hide stuff. We have honest conversations because the world is crazy. And if you don't do it from your perspective and give them that, that's a lie. No, God is in you, right? Nope, nobody made you do something. You made a choice. You can make a different choice. Oh, wait, you're in that emotion. You have the ability to change it. Are you going to stay in that? Okay, that's fine. As long as you know that it's a choice, right? So that's the same way I talk to y'all, I talk to them. All right. What advice would you give a Black girl in her early 20s? Whoo, that's a good one. I think so I want to say always say yes, right? And what I mean by that is similar to kind of what I said before, like we don't know we don't know where we're going to end. We don't know what tools or opportunities, like what comes from what, right? And so for me, putting yourself in the position to always be able to capitalize on the next thing is the best opportunity. I used to be in this program called I can't think of the program, but it was like a business training program, right? So in high school, I went to like a magnet school. We had to pick a focus. Mine was business. Um, and on the weekends, we would go like all day and we would do these trainings and stuff. And one of the things that has stuck with me since that time, again, I was in high school during this time. The trainer said, read everything, right? They were talking in the context of like when we're going to these businesses and they have us starting out like in these little menial positions, right? So you're starting out in the copy room, or you're starting out doing this, or you're starting out doing that. I took that to heart. When I say I read, like if somebody gives me a flyer and is like, go print this, or I'm walking around, and I found so many opportunities that way because most people don't read, right? Or most people see, like, particularly when you're that young, most people see what they perceive to be like an inconsequential thing or a small task or a menial task or something like that. Mm-mm. I find the opportunity in every single thing. And I believe that, like, people talk about like the degrees of separation, right? Because of that, I've just been able to really capitalize. So always say yes, right? Things that, like, I taught dance in the juvenile detention center. Like, what? I was nervous. I was scared. The opportunity presented itself. You know what? I ended up receiving this award for starting this program, which then led to this other thing, which led to this other thing. So always say yes. That's part one. Part two is, do not shrink yourself to make other people feel okay, right? I think that in our early development, and you said for 20-year-olds, but this is for everybody. We start to really, like, it starts to play out because most of us in our 20s are like in college, so we're on our own. We're trying to figure out that navigation between like leaving home and being our adult self, but then the behaviors lock in and we carry it on, right? And we find it is easy to find yourself in places where, similarly, right, you're trying to be accommodating, you are nervous to find your voice, right? Because you've come from this system where the voice has been kind of given to you and you've been navigating that. And so now you're in this space where you're like, ooh, what it is. And so my thing is to stand in your power early, right? To recognize that you are constantly co-creating your reality, and whatever you desire, you can have. The only limitation that exists is the limitation that you create for yourself. And to really own that, right? To really own that and to know that and to start to look at that early. I think one of the things that I work most with, right? I work with a lot. My clients range in age. Like, I have people from, like, I've had teens all the way up to like people in their 70s, right? So my breadth of of experiences are really, really vast. And one of the things that I find consistent when I'm working with women is having to undo some type of program that is around worth, right? Worth, feeling like they have to earn their spot, or again, doing things that they don't want to do because they were taught to believe that they needed to show up in this particular way. So take up space, live authentically, be okay with questioning the system, and don't worry about trying to make other people feel comfortable, right? You are not the sacrifice. You don't have to be the sacrifice. And you're only limited by the things that you create the limitations around. All right. Oh, hey y'all. If I haven't spoken to you, hey, like, subscribe, share, drop a comment, let me know that you're here. We are doing Ask Me Anything. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat if you have them, as they're coming up. Jackie said they have so going back to the question around the child, Jackie said they have their own journey. We have to guide them by being an example. And past us being an example, I think that you teach them to, particularly because if you're on this platform, that says that you probably have some type of ideology, theology, philosophy that does not necessarily tie into the larger population. Right? There's something slightly askew with how everyone else is doing something versus how you're doing it. And so oftentimes for children, that also becomes a slight rub, right? And one of the things that I taught my kids early was like, that is not your job to make other people understand that what you're doing or feel okay with what you're doing, right? Your job is to be the example, right? So, you don't have to show, or you don't have to say that believing in Santa Claus is stupid. You just don't believe in it. Right? You just don't believe in it. And you show that you're happy, you're functioning, you're doing all of these things, right? That you're not missing out, right? People would be like, oh my gosh, you're punishing your kids because you don't give them seeds. Like, they didn't even know what it was. They didn't know they were missing it because they never had it, right? So also teaching them that it's okay. Like, that, what I'm trying to get to is like, oftentimes kids feel like they have to be the defender of something, and acknowledging that you don't have to be the defender, right? Your job is to live your life, period. Just like our job. Our job is to live our life. My job is not to get up here. And I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and we were going back and forth. Because you all know, I say multiple truths exist, right? And my job is not to get you to believe my truth, right? My job is to help you get to your own truth, and then for you to be okay with living in that truth, whatever it is. And I don't have to be in agreement with your truth, and you don't have to be in agreement with my truth, right? Whatever that. So we're going back and forth around that. And then I was like, we've gone back and forth too many times. Like, there basically been too many volleys of this particular conversation, because I literally don't care if you agree with me or not, right? I am not here to prove my point to you. I am here to offer it. You can take it or you cannot take it, but I'm not going to keep doing this to prove that I'm right, because that's ego. Okay. Hey, Kirsten. Lotus Mindset says, I'm Reiki 2 certified. Yes, it works. Did Reiki on myself during my training and after. My tonsils grew back. I'm wondering why I have certain skills that I'm not being guided to use. Why do you think you're not being guided to use them? Lotus Mindset, because you're saying you did it on yourself, and then you saying it worked. Why do you feel like you're not being guided to use them? Is it, collective question, although I'm talking to Lotus Mindset 88, is it because we have a preconceived notion of how something should look when we put it out into the world, right? And so if I am not using this particular skill or talent like this, then I must not be using it, right? Let me go back to myself, right? I'm a certified program evaluator, right? It's part of what I went to school for. I don't evaluate programs, but what that did, the way my mind works, everything, like, I am using program evaluation when I'm doing divination, when I'm holding a counseling session, when I'm doing programming, when I'm offering a class, right? This whole, like, my brain is automatically pulling in information, deciphering, analyzing, adjusting. Okay, what changes? Boom. Like, it is constantly going through that loop. But if I said to myself, why did I have that gift or that talent or that skill, and I'm not using it in the traditional way that program evaluators are supposed to go out and use it, then I would miss the way that I am actually using the skill, right? As someone, I'm a Reiki master. I don't do Reiki anymore, right? For me, Reiki was a pathway that opened me up in a multitude of ways. um I infuse it. I infuse the idea of energy healing. It opened me to the idea of what energy healing is, but I don't practice Reiki in the context or in the sense that I was taught Reiki. So my question is, are you being limited in how you think it needs to show up based on the title, based on the perception, based on how other people have exhibited that it is supposed to show up? And so then I'm going to bring you back to the question that I gave in the earlier part where I talked about those arcs of questions. Okay, I have this gift, I have this talent. Akashic Records, spirit guide, higher self, oversoul. How am I to use this gift in this lifetime? What is the best way for me to put this out into the world? Is this something that is supposed to be for me, to work on myself first, to help me open up things, right? So I hope that was helpful. Lotus Mindset 88. If not, drop it back in the question for me. Any recommendations on getting your nervous system under control? Breath work. Breath work is a good one. And actually, I just popped in my head because I just had a client. We had the same kind of conversation. The recommendations that came up for her. Let me add this. I'm not a doctor. Right, I'm not a doctor. And I believe similar, like if you watch the live I did with the Exit the Matrix, right, where we had the guest panelists there, I talked about this idea that at soul level, we all resonate with different things, or we all resonate with modalities differently. That's how I want to say it. We all resonate with modalities differently, right? And so what may work really, really well instantaneously for me may not work or have the same level of efficiency for you because of how you are designed at soul level, right? There are some people who are light beings. And so things that deal with light as a form of regulation, healing, integration are going to be fabulous. There are people who resonate with sound. There are people who resonate with breath work, right? And then when we're talking about supplements, right? So all of those. So I'm giving you that at the start before I offer this. Okay. So breath work is a wonderful way to regulate the nervous system. Taking, like, just stopping for a moment and really, what I like to say is dropping into your center, right, allows you to kind of diffuse the noise a little bit and calm the nervous system. But then there are things like flower essences, which are fabulous for regulating the nervous system, right? I love flower essences, things like essential oils, grounding pads. Is that what they're called? Grounding mats, right? Grounding mats. What's happening in your sleeping environment? Like, I love me a good salt lamp. I love me a good salt lamp, right? So things like that. Spiritual baths, meditation, visualization. The challenge is that's so broad, right? Because your nervous system can be dysregulated for a number of reasons. And so figuring out the thing to bring it back into harmony can be challenging. I haven't told this story yet, and I've been trying to figure out when I was going to say it. So I don't, like, people in my, like, smaller circles know that I left my job, right? At the start of this year. And, well, over summer, really going into this year, because again, university summers are off, right? So I knew my nervous system was jacked up, right? We had the shooting at our school. I run a summer program. The summer before had major issues with some of the students, ended up having to have police involved. So as that was ramping up, like, my system started to kind of experience a little bit of PTSD around that. We were going through a lot. So just a lot of things were happening, right? And I was, like, not doing well. But I thought it was like oh, whatever, right? Because I am team, I wrote about this, and when I am team show up, I've been conditioned to show up, right? I've been conditioned to push through the pain, to not acknowledge it, to all of the things. So on nervous system regulation, this is where I'm going with this. Everybody, when I was like, I'm leaving, because it was really abrupt, everybody was like, well, no, why don't you do FMLA? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Right? Because people were concerned about my finances. I appreciate that. But I was like, because I know me. And if I'm still connected to something, I like mentally, I'm still going to be connected to it. Right. So I have identified that this thing is causing me issues. And so for me, I am going to prioritize my health and not these other things. And I am going to let this thing go. When I tell you so I left, we was in Brazil. I'm going to say within a month. Within a month, so I had started having like really bad brain fog. I was doing this thing where I call like my brain would glitch. So it's like I could get caught on the word, like it was bad. Like just a lot of things were happening neurologically, hormonally, like all of this stuff was going on. Within a month of leaving that job, all of those things corrected themselves. My sleep improved. My mental clarity came back. Like, y'all, I thought I needed surgery. Like, that's how bad my brain glitches and stuff were happening in that moment, right? I was suffering with really bad fibroids that were causing me so much pain. Sometimes it was debilitating. Within a month of changing the environment, right? I identified the stressor, and then I made a change to the stressor. Within the month, my system had basically reset itself. So do with that what you may. Identify the stressor and then figure out what small changes you can make within that. If you can't make a change, then do those types of things, right? Breathing, learning to detach from the situation. The reason you can get like ramped up is because you're attached to it, right? So learning to detach from the situation. Dr. Latoya, so Kirsten said she wants to tell me that she did the basal money cleanse and was offered a contract literally using your voice. Good, which you also called out in my soul blueprint reading. Thank you, Kirsten. So Kirsten took the did you do was the bath from the spiritual bath masterclass? Yay, I love that. I love that. I love that. I love when that happens. Hey Vanessa, Lotus mindset. Wish I would have been aware of all of that when I had my kids. Now I'm fighting to undo all the mistakes. Lotus, how are your kids? How old are your kids? And no. And let me just go back to this, right? Now you're fighting to undo all the mistakes. No, we're gonna cancel that, right? I'm not gonna let you live in that energy, right? Remember what I said. When your children were up before they decided to incarnate into this reality, they said, "Ooh, this lady right here has the things that I need for me to work through the lessons, the experiences that I am choosing to have in this lifetime." You were a vibrational match at the point that you were with the information that you had for the souls that you brought into this reality. Okay. Am I saying that nothing was ever a mistake? No, we all make mistakes, right? What I am also saying is that they were equipped based on who they were at soul level to be in proximity, to be in relation, to be in whatever to that thing, right? You don't know what their journey was or is. Sorry, cancel. You don't know what their journey is. You don't know what they are meant to learn. You don't know how some of the things that you are right now calling mistakes are the setup for them to be successful later. So I want you to release the notion and the idea that you are undoing the things, right? No, now you have come into different consciousness and different awareness, and you are simply expanding, which is in alignment with who you are at soul level. You are simply expanding how you are sharing that and teaching that to your children, and they will eventually be in alignment with that thing. Something just dropped in, and I kept talking through it. So wait, let me see if I can pull it back. Hmm. It'll come back. It'll come back. Um, it'll come back. It's like right there. I can't quite get it. It'll come. Vanessa says, what are some things that I can do to make sure that I don't get consumed by my spiritual journey? Because working in everyday life feel boring and I'm uninterested in it. Whoo, y'all are like with the questions tonight. I love it though. Thank y'all. Who needs pre-submitted questions when y'all gonna be hopping in the chat with good questions like this, right? So how do you not get consumed by your spiritual journey? So there is a particular how do I want to say it without sending people down a rabbit hole? Some souls some souls are wired to lean into spirituality as an escape when they become disenfranchised, disenchanted, or misaligned in life, right? Um, part one is coming into awareness that, wait a minute, this is a proclivity. I notice that this thing is happening, right? That's part one coming in. Part one is going to always be coming into awareness. Part two is then saying, what about my life is boring or is making this thing uninteresting, and where can I make changes? Right? That's like me, I don't know, making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day and being like, I'm tired of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then I go to the store and buy more peanut butter and jelly. Right? Like, why am I doing the same thing? If I already know that I'm tired of this thing, why don't I make a change? Right? And you want to do it while you have the wherewithal to be like, oh wait, no, I understand this pattern, because this is also how extremism comes into play, right? When we ignore the first nudge. And so now it's like, I'm so bored. Now I have to go like all the way left field in order to readjust, reset, whatever, recapitulate, whatever. That's not the right word. Reset. Let's go with reset. Reset this thing. So I'm going to offer that you identify what about your everyday life is feeling boring or that you're uninterested in, and then take a small action to do something different, right? If the thing is my schedule is the same, right? Wake up, take the this, do the that, do the this, come home, go to sleep, don't go out. Hey, on Fridays, I'm going to go date myself. We're going to go some different place in the city every week, right? So you have to do something. The way that we create new neural pathways, I'm not going to go down that conversation, but the way that we disrupt patterns is by introducing something different, right? And the something different just disrupts the thing that's already happening. So coming into awareness and then making new choices. All right. Lotus Mindset said, yes, I brought up having products or items and not using it to yourself to know if it works. So I was just wondering, because I have the skill, but I'm not being guided to use it with others. So then use it for yourself until you're guided to use it with others. Right? Speaking of Reiki, when I first got my Reiki, I first did my Reiki stuff. I was at Carnival. I was at Carnival in Antigua. And if you've never done Carnival, it's a lot of walking, y'all. Well, dancing. It's just a lot, right? Walking, dancing, doing all of this stuff, right? And so you walk all the way to the place where you're gonna like get on the stage, and then you dance across the stage, and then you gotta walk back, right? So imagine you done walk 5 miles, but again, it's all day, right? And then you give it all, and now you gotta walk back the 5 miles to get to where you started. My knee was like, no, ma'am, right? Because we had done all of the days. This is where at the last, we had done all of the days. My knee was like, no, ma'am. We are absolutely not able to walk back. And I had to dig deep. This was my first time using Reiki. I'd done the class, right? And in my mind, I was like, yeah, okay, right. I knew it worked because I had it done on me before, but I had not done it outside of the class, right, where we're doing the demonstrations on people, and that's different. And when I tell you I healed my knee, like I was able to walk back, and I was like, oh shit, this works. This is real. Right. And so I then, after that, like I used it on myself for like a long time before I even started offering it as a thing. So I say that to say, I think that it is always best that we use things on ourselves first, because then we even get to discover like the nuance of something as it works through us. Right. So similarly to how I just talked about, like we're all different souls and oriented different ways and different healing works differently. The same thing happens with gifts, right? Or with modalities. Just because Akashic Records, right? I learned how to read the Akashic Records in a very particular format. My spirit, the masters was like, nope, download, new way. This is how you do it. This is how you teach it. This is how you share it, right? When I'm in my mastery program and we're doing Akashic Mastery, we at the end is literally like, okay, now let us find how you work with this thing, right? This will continue to expand and grow and do all of that stuff. But you have to first like understand it. You have to understand that energy within yourself first, and the ways that it show up and the ways that you're able to move it and manipulate it and transform it and alchemize it before you were really able to kind of be a conduit of that energy, right? Most effectively and most efficiently. Not to say that you have to be a master of it, because also that's the other thing, right? People get into this thing of, well, I have to know all of the things before. No, you don't have to know all of the things, but you have to be comfortable. If somebody asked you a question, you need to be able to talk ad nauseum about it, right? And not need the notes, right? You don't need Chat GPT to help you. In the traditional sense, I'm not using it, but I like to. I just don't feel like that's my path. Like you said, I think it was just an avenue to get to something else. Just don't know what yet. And how I started in the beginning is we don't have to know all of the next steps, right? Our goal is to just follow the next step, follow the thing that's in front, which will then lead to the thing that's in front, which will then lead to the thing that's in front. Can you do a 3-day in-person workshop in Miami? Haha. Vanessa, what I'm gonna do? Tell me what I'm gonna do the workshop on. What are we talking about in Miami? You know, I'm from Miami, so I am actually trying to get back down there. But yeah, tell me what I'm gonna do the workshop on. I'm open to all the things right now. Kirsten says, I know I need to leave my job. I left that man alone and I've been breathing so much easier. Yes. Yes. Lotus Mindset, kids are 15 and 12. A good thing to help them is also like, so because at 15 and 12, that means like you're still driving, you're still taking them, you're still doing these things, right? So it's like you just start to make small shifts that make big impact, right? So on the way to school in the morning, like our playlist is, we are doing affirmations or songs. When they were little, it was affirmations. Now they like want to hear songs. So like my playlist is curated, right? It is like, you're going to know that you're amazing. You're going to know that you're great, right? We're singing, it's a bop, but it is intentional, right? When we're watching, we do like a family show, you know, so kind of we rotate those. I'm stopping, I'm pausing, we're talking about it, you got questions, right? So it's not, you just infuse it. You can do while they're sleeping, like play frequencies to help with like clearing and regulation. You could do where you give them, my nose, y'all. This is the new thing. I said it before, but now I know why it happens. I don't like it. You can do like where you give them the soap, like, because you're buying the products, right? So you could do baths or, you know, like soaps that help with clearing energy. So like the shift doesn't have to be drastic, you know, at dinner time. All right, great. Let's set our intention. A thing I used to do with my kids, like on the way to school, would be like, tell me 3 things that are going to happen great for you today. Right. And then they would come home or we get in the car, tell me something that was amazing. If they have a test, they're nervous about a test. Okay, let's take a moment. Let's visualize yourself going through all the questions. Tell me, let's go through it. Right. So it's like just shifting small ways, because what happens is they start to see the proof of the things that you're talking about, and then it becomes easier to integrate other things. All right. Recalibrate. Yeah, what did I say? Recapitulate. That makes so much sense. I'm right. Smiling happily, right? Crossing fingers. Are you wait, smiling happily, are you also in Miami? Perfectly not W. I know what my inner issue is. However, I don't know where it started or how. I'm not even sure of what to do, but I know it's causing my nervous system to be literally all over the place. Well, where it started or how isn't necessary in order to fix something or to release something, right? You say you know what the inner issue is. So work on releasing or healing that inner issue, right? It could be through rewriting, what I call narrative rewrites, right? So bringing or allowing the self to bring up and out whatever it wants to bring up and out. And then just rewriting that thing. Y'all, another belief that is held is that healing needs to be longitudinal, right? There has to be this long journey and process to heal something or to release something, right? My inner alchemy program is 6 weeks long, right? 6 weeks. And the 6th week is us talking about and really diving into the plan of like what we talked about, right? And then each week is a different thing. 5 weeks isn't a long time, right? What happens in 5? And there's the mix of people who are working and having all of the things. So there's always a mix of somebody who's like doing every assignment, who's doing all of the tasks, who's doing all of the things, and then somebody who's like, yeah, I'm going to catch some of these things on the replay. But what happens in all of them is major shifts. Why? Because what I am really focusing on is breaking the mindset and the beliefs that these things are external to you, that the healing is external to you, that there has to be this no, I can make a choice today. I can commit to the action today. I can start these things today, and I can start to see change in it tomorrow. I don't have to be here wrestling with this thing for eons, right? So part of what I want you to allow into your space and into your spirit is the knowing that the version of you, the version of you that is living the reality, and this is for everybody, okay? The version of you that is living the reality that you are seeing, feeling, and knowing to be true already exists. It already exists. If it didn't exist, you wouldn't know that it was a possibility, or you wouldn't see it or have the sense or have the desire for that thing. If it dropped into you, that version of you is there. Higher timeline is there, right? Now, the only thing that you need to do is align yourself with that version of reality and be willing to let go of this version that is holding on to all of those things. When I say be willing, that means part of it is not allowing yourself to repeat the past story. And by repeat, I mean not necessarily do the same actions, but literally, yeah, no, we're not talking about that again. By knowing that you have the capacity and the capability to make a shift that fast, right? I like to do I can't remember who just said this, but this is coming up. So all the other times I've said this is general, I've taken the big and I've I've taken the small and I brought it out to the big. I'm bringing this to, this is small. This is for who asked about this particular thing. So doing the letter writing, the energy of fire is one that works well with you, right? So doing things where you are releasing using the energy of fire. So that can be through burning things that you are ready to let go of. That can be through, kind of staring at fire, through cleaning with fire, but using the energy of fire is one that will be really, really good for you to kind of clean different frequencies and clean stagnant energy for you. Particularly though, using words are important, right? So either vocalizing your words or writing these words out of the thing that you no longer want, really acknowledging that that thing is done and complete and that you're ready to release it. And then stepping into the new version of that, not allowing the energy of what was and what happened and like all of the stories and all of the things that were associated and attached to that. It's literally like you let it go and then you come out and you act and you be the new person, right? Part of what is happening is there is still attachment to some of those old things. And so again, understanding the what and the how and the why and all of that stuff is not important. What's important is I feel like this. This is no longer aligned with how I am desiring to feel. I want to feel like this. I release this feeling with love. I send all of the things associated with me being in and living in this energetic frequency. I release those things and I step fully into the vibrational force and the vibrational match of this thing that is me, that already exists. And I call this into my reality. And every day you wake up with the knowing that you are that person. They're showing me that you stand in the mirror, and you need like body movement, right? So kind of more of an in-body practice. So like this can be like a stretching, or what I really see is like a yawning, like a yawning action. So this might be a combination of breath work and somatic practice that's coming together, but in the mirror, like really being big. This is like taking up space. This is like really extending the arms, allowing the energy to come through the different parts of the body. And it's like an expansion of the chest, right? So seeing yourself take up that space, seeing yourself expand, and then allowing things to release, and seeing yourself again as the version of the person that you are saying you are capable of becoming, because you are capable of becoming that person. All right. Stephanie says, what about another spiritual baths intensive? Wait, another one? Tell me more, Stephanie. Is this for the live thing in Miami? Because you're not in Miami. Or is this like another virtual class that you're saying to do? Spirit will guide you on what we need. Laugh out. I'm open to Tampa. But that's like any place in Florida. I'm good. Y'all know I live in Tallahassee, right? That's Florida. I know the state of Florida is long, right? It might be cheaper in Tampa. Yes, it definitely would be cheaper in Tampa. I don't know, like Tampa isn't one of my like, I'm say hangout spots, right? I actually am working on something in Orlando though. So I'm working on something in Orlando. So that may be a way to, maybe I can like expand it. I was working on it as the one particular thing, but maybe I could think about kind of expanding it into a few day thing. Lake Wells. Oh, I lived in Lake Wells. Did you know that? Smiling happily. Lake Wells to me, I always say is the most racist place I've ever been or lived. It was a wonderful learning experience. I learned so much. Lake Wells really taught me about ancestral or like limiting beliefs and things that are ingrained in us from like ancestrally. It was crazy to watch the dynamics of. So for people who don't know, Lake Wales is the actual center of Florida, right? It is the center going north and south, and it is the center going east and west. And it started as an orange community. And they started to, so they offered free land. Basically, it was like, oh, come move here and get all of this land, and you have these orange groves, right? So people started coming there, but of course, these are people with money, right? White people with money started to move there. So people like the Oster, Oster, right? That appliance company, Coca-Cola. It also was the seat of, even though Tallahassee is the capital, it became the place where a lot of like politicians and law and legislation and all of that stuff was happening, right? So old money with these orange groves. How are you going to get the orange? How are we getting the oranges off the orange groves? Right? How are we getting the oranges off the orange groves? So a really large population of, of course, originally enslaved people. But then after that, it became a really large sharecropping town. The town, if you look at it, has a railroad track, the infamous railroad track, right? On one side of the railroad track is what happens on one side of the railroad track, and then the other side of the railroad track is the orange, like the orange factory. And the orange factory is, so like, let's say if this is the orange factory, right? The Black people literally it's like you don't have to go past, it's like you're caged in or you're boxed in, right? The only place like, here's the factory, here are your houses, right? Here's the factory, here's your houses. So you don't ever need to cross the railroad track. Again, really, like, it was crazy. It was crazy to watch. And when I lived there, I was the director of a community center there. And it was just, I learned so much. All of that to say, a lot of the work that I do, again, this goes back to what I talked about in the beginning, right? You literally always say yes. You literally never know how one thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. Because how did I end up as the executive director of this art center, of this community center, right? But what it taught me absolutely informs how I got to understanding ancestral, why can't I think of the word, things that are passed down, epigenetic memory, like all of those things were like watching it. I didn't have words for it. I didn't know what was happening, but watching it play out absolutely informed so much of how I am and how I show up today. And it also changed the boundaries and the expectations that I had for my kids. So when I was there, I moved there when my baby was like a baby, like she was an infant, right? I had her in April. I think we moved there in like June or July or something like that, right? So she was an infant. My oldest daughter was 2.5. And again, I told you I was the most racist place I've ever been. So I was hyper vigilant about, one, microaggressions, right? But then I befriended some really cool people, right? And I watched how free their kids were. There was no like, sit down, do this. And get in Black culture, in Black houses, what are we taught, right? Children are to be seen. Children are to be seen and not heard, right? When you're out in public, you sit down. You're not doing all of these things. And so one day we were out somewhere and we were doing homeschooling. We had like a little homeschool co-op. And I'm watching like all the other little kids just flipping and tossing and doing all of the things. And I done made my children sit down. I was like, wait a minute. Why are you imposing this thing on them? Like, they have those same restrictions. And then we wonder why, when the kids get older, those kids are not afraid to take up space, to ask questions, to be free, to show up how they are. It's because it was integrated and cultivated in them from a small age. When I tell you that was the last day that I made my child or children try to like fit in this like pre subscribed thing, I was like, no, you absolutely get to take up space. You want to flip? Go flip. You want to go do that, right? Is there a threat right now? That does you doing this thing, is that a threat? No. What was happening? I was concerned about how people would perceive me, right? And because they didn't have the burden of caring how people perceived them, their children got to live a life that was free. And I was like, wait a minute, we're not doing that. We are absolutely not carrying that on, right? So you too get to live free and take up space. And when I say I am thankful for my time there, I am truly thankful for my time there. ADS keep playing, making me miss the live. Oh, ads keep playing. Oh, I'm sorry. I figure out I don't remember having them during the live. I don't even know how. I don't know, y'all. I'll see. I'll see how that happens. Okay. How do I remove blockages? Wait a minute, I missed some up here. Okay. There's a Black-owned spa called Every Skin. Where is that? In Lake Wells? How do I remove blockages from my heart and third eye? Again, that's a big question. Reiki, identifying, sorry, you may or may not know this. I burp when I channel or when like spirit or energy is there. So I burp a lot. So sorry. I'm not being rude. Sorry, let me go back to the question. Remove blockages from my heart and my third eye. I'm focused. The same recommendations that I gave earlier, right? You could do it through meditation, through visualization, through sound frequencies, through Reiki, through energy healing, through identifying, releasing, letting go, right? All of those things are a way to remove blockages. If you are trying to enhance, is that the word? Increase capacity, let's say, particularly for the third eye, right? Increase capacity, and how you are receiving and perceiving things like not visualization, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say meditation, right? Literally, so like there is this thing, because we're in, like, y'all know I don't like to, in general, like YouTube land, where I think people sometimes get bits and pieces of information and go crazy. I try to be really mindful that I'm not being harmful, right? And recognizing that this is a open platform and anybody can take what I say. So let me just let me make sure I'm framing this in a as complete way as I can. While that's processing in my brain, let me just Akashic Records, right? For everybody who's saying, I don't know this, I don't know where this is, I don't, right? That is literally the tool for understanding how that happens. Oh, y'all, which brings me to, how did I not say this? We are having a giveaway, right? So giving away three courses, Akashic Records. These are all of my pre-recorded courses, so these are not live, right? Akashic Records 101, Meet Your Spirit Guide, and Connect Till Elevate, which is the course for understanding and releasing generational trauma. In order to, and then a bonus giveaway of which is a free 30-minute session with me. The easiest way for me to tell you to, I can drop it in the chat. But the easiest way for me to tell you is to go on my social media, and there should be a pinned post that has all of the rules. But you have 3 opportunities for the courses to enter, right? The more you enter, of course, the higher your chances are of winning. You can enter by tagging 3 people on the social media page. You can enter, that's one entry. You can enter by sharing the post. That's another entry. And I don't remember the third one. But there are 3. But like I said, they're on the page, And then for the bonus session with me, so it's a free 30-minute session with me, to your discretion. So that means that we can do Akashic record work. We could do it as the coaching, spiritual counseling coaching call, whichever. And you just have to share a comment and share a YouTube video. And then there's an entry form. So you do have to fill out the entry form. So let me drop here. Healing Institute. And you all are always able to find my stuff at chihealinginstitute.links, right? Sometimes I was about to put links, giveaway. That's the entry form. And then also there is, I didn't put it on the screen. Sorry. And I should also put it in the chat. I'll pin it when I do the whatever. Where was I? Oh, heart chakra, third eye. Clarification. So if this, I'm going to frame it. If you feel called, they're showing me basically like what we're going to call, it is an actual practice. I just don't want to say that name. We'll use recalibration as the word that came up earlier, right? Kind of this energetic body or chakra recalibration. And in this, you go into kind of a meditative state. And in this meditative state, you call in your spirit team as you know them to be, or if you don't know them, that's fine too. You just acknowledge, I'm calling in the spiritual aspect of myself that can fulfill this particular task, right? And then you have to be able to allow yourself though to be still and to really be in that meditative space that allows kind of this energetic recalibration to happen. It's almost like a like a spiritual surgery is what's happening. So you can do that. Or like I said, all of the things that I have discussed earlier, right? The tools are always the same. Right? Right? Scripting, releasing, coming into awareness, letting it go, however we're letting that go, right? The different ways we can let that go. We can write it, we can sing it, we can dance it, we can, see it, we can visualize it, letting it go, replacing it with something else. And then how are we going to replace it with something else? And then taking action, right? That's the part I have not talked about tonight, taking action. Because we can do all of these other things. And if we don't take new action, what happens? The energetic pattern just comes back, right? So taking new action, new aligned action is always vitally important. And then again, I am, so for me, like in these types of things, right, where it's this big platform, the stuff is generic, right? If you're wanting like, and these are the actual skills, because all of the stuff that I say here, like what I teach in my private communities far exceeds the tools and stuff that I give through, yes, I can explain free writing, through my email list. Also, if you're not on my email list, right, I give tips and tools so much on my email list, right? How do you identify a pattern? How do you make a new choice? What's the ritual that you could do? What's it is like all the time. So if you're not on my email list, I absolutely suggest that you sign up for that. And again, you can go to the links, or let me see, I think it's chihealinginstitute.com/subscribe, right? So I was just asked to describe free writing. Okay, so free writing essentially is allowing yourself to channel information in a way that's going to come through writing. So there are many ways to do it, but the idea is that you are removing your thinking mind from the process and allowing your subconscious, unconscious mind, or like to be a conduit for some type of higher energy, right? And the reason I'm saying it like that is, again, I mentioned that there are multiple ways to free write. So sometimes you can specifically say, I am tapping into the energy of my higher self, right? Or I am tapping into my oversoul, or I am tapping into this, right? So sometimes you can very specifically give an energy that you are wanting to call forth as what comes up to write. The thing with free writing is, the reason it's free writing is because you are not concerned with you are not concerned with like punctuation, capitalization. Does the sentence make sense? Is this a paragraph? You literally, I like to say, you put pen to paper, and the pen does not come off of the paper until you have finished the session. When someone is beginning to free write, I typically suggest that you set a time, right? That you set a timer, because it does something for the brain. Otherwise, the brain is like fixated on like, are we done? Are we done yet? Are we done yet? Right? So you just kind of allay some of the things that would naturally come up, right? So you set a timer. If you have a particular question that you are working through, I personally write my question at the top of the page, right? So let's say, let's go back with the spiritual gift. So, how am I to use, how does the energy of womb work want to come through me in this lifetime or in this stage? Because in this lifetime is big, right? Because how it's going to come when you're 10 years from now is different than how it's going to come up now. So how does the energy of womb work and womb healing want to manifest through me at this current stage, right? So I would write that at the top. And then I would set my timer. I take a deep breath. So always going to, stop, drop, stop, drop, open the shop, drop in the space, right? Allow myself to kind of really just release, nervous system, right? Allow myself to release, come into the moment. And then I just put pen to paper. And in the beginning is going to very much be your conscious mind and thoughts, right? What I like to say is, when you go back and read it, because you're not reading it while you're writing it, when you go back and read it, you should notice a shift. You should notice a shift, and that shift should be when your conscious mind left and when the higher consciousness dropped in. The shift can be either in the penmanship itself, right? So the writing can start to look different. It can be in the way the words are written. So like, you went from like these nice sentences with big words to like these small, Sam, I am, I do not like green eggs and ham, right? You went to these very like pedantic, type of writing, like whatever it is, like you should notice some type of shift. Something at the end should also make sense, right? It should answer this question for you. And so getting into a practice of doing that is really good. I would offer that in the beginning. I typically don't say try it for more than like 5 to 7 minutes in the beginning, right? Because you just want to get in the practice of being in writing flow. Okay. Yeah, you just want to get in the practice of being in writing flow. And then eventually, right, you really do start to see that as a thing. Kirsten says, so did that help you? Smiling happily? Kirsten says she's on the email list with 2 different email addresses, so she don't ever miss it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, I was like, my emails are so good, and I'm not just saying that because I send them out, but like literally, there's just so much that you could do, right? There's just so much that you can do with just being on the email list. Lotus Mindset says she tried automatic writing. It doesn't work for you. Also, you could have given up before before it locked in, or it could not work for you, right? You could also do this thing, what do you call it? Like when you're talking, right? So I particularly do the talking if I'm like out, if I'm doing a meditative walk, right? So if I'm going out walking, again, I set my intention, I ask my question, I just turn my recorder on, and I just start walking and talking, right? And it might look like, oh, look at the trees. Oh, look at the bird. Oh, the bird landed on, right. So like all of those things, voice notes. Thank you. Voice notes. African Queen T says, I like that I always free write, but never thought about asking my higher self. I'm definitely trying it. Yes. Remember, energy follows intention, right? So if we don't set the intention or we don't direct where the energy is, it's like what's out there, right? So let's be very directed in the goal that we're trying to achieve. All right. So I don't think I think I've covered. Oh, look at there. The this is how we do it. The 3 ways to do the giveaway is to follow on socials. Oh, that's right, to follow on socials, right? So at Chi Healing Institute, to tag 3 friends and then to share the post. Okay, and then remember that you can go to. I just did it. Is that it? There. To actually submit the form. Okay. And the giveaway will happen on March 18th. It ends March 17th. So you have to have your things in by the night of March 17th. And I will be selecting the winners at the live activation on March 18th. Right. Also, plug Mark. There is a oh, look, I'm answering your question. I didn't even see it. So the winner is picked on March 18th. During the live activation. So you all know the 3rd Wednesday of the month, we do our live activation here on YouTube. This month's activation is the energetics of abundance. And so at some point during that live, I don't know when, I don't know if I'm going to do it at the top or at the bottom, I will be announcing the winners of those. You cannot, no, there's no, how you, it's a public platform. How you stalking me? Yes. All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns? Brazil is still open. The deadline, if you want to be on the payment plan, is March 15th, right? After that, we do not have the payment plan. No, the Egg Bay link, but I'm glad you said that because I don't know if I added your name to the so yeah, still send me an email, but you won't get the link until I think there's an email that goes out on the 14th, and then there's an email that goes out on the 20th that has the thing in it. So you'll get it then. Am I hiring? What are you positioning yourself for? All right, so we're gonna wrap up. Okay, so Brazil open payment plan. If you have questions about Brazil, drop that in the chat. Egg Bay workshop. If you bought your Egg Bay book before February 23rd and you haven't submitted your receipt, you still can. Okay, you get the workshop with your book purchase if you purchased your book before February 23rd. It doesn't matter what the form of, if you purchased it from me. Well, if you purchased it from me, I'll already have you on the list, so you don't have to send me your receipt. If you purchase it from Amazon, be it the ebook or the paperback, submit your receipt. If you did not purchase before February 23rd, but you want to come to the workshop, you can do that. The spaces are limited because so many people did already get the workshop included in their, with their book purchase, right? So if you want to come to that, then make sure that you don't miss it. The link for that one is www.chihealinginstitute. Normally, I try to come in ahead of time and put my things in, but I'd be forgetting. Oh no, you know what happened? I went to the gym, y'all, today. Egg Bay workshop. I don't even really know if that's right. It might be right. I feel like it's right. Somebody check that and tell me if it's right. The book is a game changer. Yes, thank you. Virtual assistant work. I bought my friend the book and she is loving it. Yay. Wait, am I doing? Sorry, y'all. I'm just pressing buttons at this point. Okay, so I'm going through my list. So Egg Bay workshop, March 21st. Live activation, March 18th, which is also the announcement of the winners. And ooh, how'd that happen? Did y'all see those sparkles and fireworks that just happened? Or did that just happen on my screen? Did y'all see that? Okay, tell me in the comments if you saw it. Other than that, y'all purchase the book. That's crazy. How'd that happen? I don't know how that happened. If you purchase the book, I would also, my other ask is that you leave a review on Amazon. Okay. If you're on my mailing list, I did send that out in the email, but you can also just go into your, like, your Amazon account and the book, go to your past purchases and then click on leave a review. I really appreciate it. Even if you don't type out words, right? At least giving some stars, but words are also very helpful, and I appreciate that. So until next time, if there are no other questions, comments, all hearts and minds are clear. I've enjoyed y'all tonight. Thank you. And until next time, remember, you deserve to live a life that lights you up from the inside out. Like, subscribe, and share. And I will catch y'all next time.